everyone, and welcome. I'm Pastor Peter. Thanks so much for checking out Grace Commons Church. Today I'm bringing you a devotion which is a part of our sermon series going on called The Great Adventure. In this series, we're taking a look at faith and about the adventure of faith that God has called all of us to follow Him on. So let me start off by reading a passage from the book of Isaiah for you. I'm reading from Isaiah chapter 51. I'm reading verses 1 through 3. It says this: "Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness and who seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were cut, and to the quarry from which you were hewn. Look to Abraham your father, and to Sarah who gave you birth. When I called him, he was but one, and I blessed him and made him many. The Lord will surely comfort Zion, and will look with compassion on all her ruins. He will make her deserts like Eden, her wastelands like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found in her, thanksgiving and the sound of singing." You know, when I was a kid in Sunday school, I had this teacher who tried to give us an image to help us conceive of what the Christian life is like. And it was all based on this idea of rewards and punishments. My teacher said, look, think about it this way. When you're a Christian and you do good works and you follow the Lord and you're obeying Him, you're going to end up one day with this room in a palace filled with all this treasure, and the treasure represents all the good things that you've done. Now, as a kid, that made sense. And there's definitely something to be said in the Christian life about doing good works and the importance of that. But I don't think the message really landed the way that my teacher wanted it to. Because you see, what happened was as I grew up, I internalized that. I thought about that notion in terms of my relationship with God is all about rewards and punishments. So if I am doing the wrong thing, or if I mess up, that means that God is going to be just fully angry with me all the time. If I don't do all the right things all the right time, then God is never going to be happy with me. I took it to mean that unless I do all the right things that a good Christian is supposed to do, I can't even call myself a Christian. The problem with this thinking is that it starts from the wrong place. And this passage in Isaiah is helping us to reorient our thinking. This passage in Isaiah is meant to point towards our starting place, which is the story of Abraham. Abraham came before so much in the Bible that we take for granted. He came before Jesus. He came before the law, before the 10 Commandments, before there was anything that we even call Holy Scripture. He was just a man. He was a farmer. He was a nomad traveling around with his family. And God called him and said, "Abraham, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore." And Abraham believed God. And God fulfilled His promise. He gave Abraham and Sarah a son, Isaac, even when they were old and they couldn't conceive on their own. And what Isaiah is telling us here is, look, if you want to have a right relationship with God, which is what righteousness means, if you want to have a right relationship with God, and that's something that you care about, look to Abraham. Sure, he was a man of God. Sure, he obeyed God. But his starting place was God's grace. His starting place was faith. He believed God, he trusted in God, and God fulfilled His promises. This is what God is saying in Isaiah. God is saying, look, I called Abraham and he was just a single person, but I blessed him and I made him numerous. The focus isn't on Abraham, the focus is on God. The focus is on the things that God did in Abraham's life and the way that Abraham related to God rightly through that was through faith. This is the exact same lesson that the New Testament talks about. Paul was all about God's grace. He was all about showing us how faith is the way that we can rightly relate to God. Check out Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 through 9. Here Paul is speaking to the church and he says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. And this not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." See, we're not saved because of our good works. We're saved because of God's grace. We're saved because God took the initiative. God said, "I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make a way for all the wrong things that you've ever done to be forgiven, to be wiped out, so that you can relate to me rightly, so that you can enjoy my love forever. That's what we believe as Christians. That's what the Bible calls us to believe. The message of the Bible is not that you have to earn God's love. It's not that you have to earn your right to be called a Christian. The message of the Bible is that God has already made a way. Through Jesus Christ, everything has been prepared for you to walk with God, for you to have a relationship with God. So many of us, we carry around these burdens, we carry around guilt, we carry around just the knowledge, the memories of all the ways that we failed, all of the mistakes we've made. Some of us, we're still paying for those mistakes. The message that Jesus brings is that if you trust in God, if you put your faith in Jesus, then He takes care of everything you need. This passage in Isaiah that we're looking at was shared with God's people in times of exile and distress. It was shared in times of darkness where it didn't look like God was anywhere to be found. Does that sound like anything familiar to you? Have you been there? Maybe you're there right now. You look around your life and you think, where's God in all of this mess? The promise of Scripture comes to people in their darkest hour as a reminder that God is full of grace and full of mercy. So just like for the people of God years ago, God's promise is still there for us today. The starting point is not on you. The starting point is not on your merits, on your strengths. It's not about your weaknesses and failings. It's about God and His grace and the lengths that He's willing to go to clear away everything that stands between you and Him. This is our starting point. It's not on us, not about our strengths, our weaknesses. It's not about the things that we can do to try to make ourselves better, to try to make ourselves Christians. Instead, what the Bible calls us to is to trust, to hear the promise that Jesus has made a way to pay for all of our mistakes, that you don't have to earn God's love, that He has given it, that He gives it to you today freely, that it's yours. All we are called to do is to accept that gift, to put our trust in God's promises, just like Abraham. Today, no matter where you are, no matter what your relationship with God is like, my hope is that you'll hear this message. The starting place for faith, the starting place for this great adventure is not on anything that you've done, but on what God has done and what God has promised to do for you going forward. God has called you to a new life. He's called you to a fresh start. And that begins today when you put your trust in God. When you receive His promises and you say, yes, Lord, I believe. Well, thanks so much for checking out this short devotion with us. I hope that you'll plan on coming out to worship with us in person on Sundays. We meet Sunday evenings at 4 p.m. at Silver Heights Camp in New Albany, Indiana. Check out the link below for the church website, and you can find us on Facebook for updates and to find out other things that we're doing at Grace Commons Church. We're a new church, but we are off to a great start, and we're looking forward to continuing to grow and to get the message of God's grace out to as many people as we can. So I hope you're blessed. Have a great week. Stay warm and stay safe, and we'll see you next time.